In preparation for this movie, I didn't shower for an entire month. So I just came back from seeing Chainsaw Man Reze arc, and let me say this is probably one of the best anime movies I've seen in a while, which is kind of crazy because I just recently also saw Demon Slayer, and I'm also gonna say that this movie's better than Demon Slayer. And that's because this movie does so many things so well, and I think it does so many things so much better than Demon Slayer. I think my favorite part about this movie is the music. Every time the score comes on, it's absolutely breathtaking. Each soundtrack in this movie fits with every single scene. The action scenes are much more lively, and I'm just jamming out and enjoying the ride. And then the more romantic and slow scenes are just simply beautiful with the incorporation of the music. Like, it got me freaking. It's not only the music that makes this movie beautiful, it's also the breathtaking animation that makes it come to life. I love how cinematic it is. There are cuts where the animators get to play around with how the camera would look. Well, quote unquote camera, because there's not actually a camera. They're just using different effects to set the mood for each scene. There's this scene in particular where it's a festival and it's done really well because of this glare type effect, and it makes it look so cool. I think the choices they make in the animation are so creative and extremely innovative for a movie like this because it really sets the atmosphere and the tone for how each scene plays out. This movie also flows extremely well compared to something like Demon Slayer, because while Demon Slayer was bogged down by like 20 billion different flashbacks every fight scene, Chainsaw gets its exposition out in a linear fashion, so you get to know all the characters as you're introduced to them, and they continue to build on them and they don't go back in flashbacks, so they just continue to build and flesh out the characters, and I think that makes the movie so much better because when it does get to the action, it feels so much more impactful. The movie spent all this time letting you get to know the characters, and so when the action starts, it feels so much more rewarding. And by golly, do they reward you in this movie. I think this movie has like a 30-40 minute fight scene. As soon as the second half starts, it's just straight up a brawl. It's a straight up like 30-minute fight, and it's one of the most beautifully animated fights I've ever seen. Although it does get a little bit overstimulating with a lot of things going on. Mappa does this thing where they like to prioritize fluidity over like strict character models, or just anything with a straight line that you can see. So it kind of gets hard to follow, but honestly, there's just barely any of it, and I think the rest of the action is done so well that you're not really gonna notice, especially if you're read the manga. I think this adaptation does the action a lot of justice, but I also haven't reread the manga in a while. I heard were extra scenes, but I don't think it ruined the movie because I could barely notice it. I thought the action was extremely fun, and especially for 30-40 minute action, I'm not gonna complain. Chainsaw Man also goes beyond the action, and when I hear people say that Chainsaw Man is a gooner anime, and I see a lot of the fan base talking about how Denji's so relatable because he likes women, because he's just a horned up teenage boy. Every single one of those people are wrong. Chainsaw Man is so much more sophisticated than just that. Denji is a much more deep character that he gets easily manipulated by practically everybody, especially the women in the series, because he's not used to those interactions. And this movie does such a good job at portraying this inner conflict through his, thoughts and scenes where he has to go through these decisions to make because he's not been in them before. They also do a phenomenal job at building his relationship with Reze. She's honestly my favorite character in the movie, and they spend so much time with her, developing her character, making her really interesting. And she's just a really interesting and tragic character that the audience gets, a lot of time to connect with. So I think it's just done really well. I think they did a phenomenal job with the other two side characters as well. They introduced Beam and Angel. Beam is extremely fun, and I think a lot of people are gonna like him. Angel is also a really good character, but he's not really explored that much. But I still think he's really interesting, and the scenes with him and Aki are some of the best parts of the movie, and he's at least intriguing enough. I went to see this movie with a couple friends, and the group of friends I went to see with. Only one of them was unfamiliar with Chainsaw Man, but he still said he enjoyed the movie. And I also think the people who have not seen season 1 or have read the manga can still enjoy this movie. However, I still recommend you read or watch season 1 before seeing Reze arc. But I still think the movie does a great job at laying down its exposition and pushing the story so that people can understand what's happening and not really get confused that much. Overall, everything about this movie is absolutely phenomenal, from the pacing, the animation, to the voice acting, to the music, to the character development, to the character relationships, to Denji's character, to Reise's character. I just love Chainsaw Man. Anybody who says this is a Gunnar anime just simply doesn't understand absolute cinema. And so I highly recommend watching this because, again, it's one of the best anime movies that I've seen come out recently. So I'm gonna give Chainsaw Man Reze arc a 9.5 out of 10.